The content discussed in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as financial or mortgage advice. Always consult with a licensed professional before making any decisions regarding mortgages or financial matters.
Welcome to the Canadian Mortgage Show. Here are mortgage professionals Alex Pang and Alex Shanks to cut through the BS and educate Canadians on all things mortgages and real estate.
Welcome to another episode of the Canadian Mortgage Show. Pang here, Shanks here. How you doing, Shanks?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How about yourself here today?
Doing okay. It's the first week of getting back to work, so I've been overloading myself with shooting myself out and getting back into it. Pretty busy this week.
Yeah, I feel that. It's for everyone else. This is actually our second recording for the week because we took the holidays. We got to catch up now. Me and Alex get to hang out twice in 1 week, and I get to share a bunch of more news because we could have probably talked for 3 hours the other episode, and so we didn't want to cut it to have it too long.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's get into it. We had so much we couldn't finish it in one pod, so let's just continue off. I want to give you an update on the fallout of Justin Trudeau resigning. He also pro-wrote Governemnt, which essentially is suspending Parliament till March 24th. What essentially happens is any proposed legislation, bills that are proposed that haven't been passed, essentially gets killed when a government gets prorogued. And the one particular item that we're focusing in on is that capital gains change, where the government proposed that they increase capital gains from a 50% inclusion to a 66%, which covers all corporations right from the get-go and for individuals who have a capital gain of, I'm just reading here what the clarification we got was. Apparently, even though it hasn't passed yet, the finance department says parliamentary convention dictates that taxation proposals, such as this capital gains taxation measure that they introduced, are effective as soon as the government tables a notice of ways and means motion. I don't know. That means they're still going to do it despite it not officially being passed yet.
And that's it. It's so hard to think. I feel like we're going to spend probably a couple $1 million. Let's talk worst case scenario. This doesn't actually go through. When another party comes in, they say, no, we're not doing it. Now, how much money are we going to have to spend just on the government side to reverse everything that we've done? It gives me a taste of CERB and the SEBA business loans where they just handed them out and said, hey, we're doing it. We'll deal with it after. And I'm like, I feel like there should be more discussions on this, but of course, Parliament isn't in, so we can't have a discussion.
Oh, yeah, exactly. The finance department says that CRA will stop administering this if Parliament resumes and the government signals we're officially no longer doing this. Like you just said, we're in a holding pattern. When is the Parliament going to come back in March? So in 2 months, 2.5 months, they would have collected all these millions of dollars of capital gains. And in the meantime, people are overpaying. When they return the money, I believe you said it last week, it was 4%. I think the clarification is they'll return it at 6%, but when you owe them money, they'll charge you 8%. So they're pocketing a 2%.
To that. Yes. Oh, exactly. It's pretty much free money to them, especially if it's not going to happen. They're just going to get to have the money. Now, the thing that I have a real big issue with it is it's on the accounting side. It's great to say, hey, if it happens, hey, we really the funds should be put aside. I'm fine with that, to say we don't know what's going to happen. But if we put all the money and everyone gives it to the government and then we find out it's not going to have to happen, well, whoever's had to pay that, they're going to have to pay their accountant to go deal with getting all that money back. And like the timing, everything, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, it's what a mess. Now there's no official strategy of what to do. Should you just pay the higher capital gains tax now and then, like you said, apply for the refund later? Essentially, you're just giving the government a free loan because you're paying money that you shouldn't be. Or should you just take the risk and say, screw this, we know this is not going to pass. I'm just going to pay based on the 50% inclusion rate and just roll the dice. And being a gambler, looking at the odds that this likely is not going to pass, at least you get to keep your money. So we're not going to give you advice here or there. The only thing we should say is just talk to your accountant what to do.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. If you're good with money, like myself, like again, we talked before last time about businesses, like you have to pay your taxes in advance and everything. But sometimes you may pay too little and you may owe more. Like I like to keep funds set aside. I invest it into safe investments while I'm waiting to have to pay things. And if you're good with your money, hey, you could pay the lower amount, keep it in your own pocket, make the money on it. And then when they determine, hey, you do have to pay it, hey, you have to pay it. The issue is most people aren't that good with their money. And if they have the money, they're going to spend it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the one thing that I'm learning being self-employed. For you entrepreneurs out there, that for every dollar you make, that whole dollar is not yours. You have to set aside money, whether it be that 20 or 30% of what you're making to taxes. And then depending on whether you're incorporated, you pay yourself a dividend or T4, you got to figure that out. So don't spend all the money you make because you have to pay taxes. And of course you want to reinvest it in the business.
Well, we always get it, Alex, on the mortgage side. Think about when we talk to business owners that are trying to get a mortgage and they're like, oh, I make 500,000. And you're like, whoa, you make a good income. It's no, your business makes 500,000. That's the revenue. You pay your wages, you pay everything else. And hey, you personally only make 80,000. And that's where I like to look at it as what's in your bank account after, what do you owe the taxes? And smart people, even as an employee, most of the time they're taking enough money off, but sometimes their employer messes up. And it's pretty scary when people find out, shit, you owe $10,000, because most people aren't planning for that.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're in a little mess. We're going to spend a little time actually picking on CRA and the government for a little bit. So next step, this was over the holidays. Ottawa is actually targeting 15.8 billion in budget cuts. Now, we've long talked about our bureaucracy being way overbloated. We have way too much. And you know what? It looks like they're finally listening to us and they're realizing they're just spending money and it's not going to anything. And they're planning to lay off thousands of public servants. It could be up to 5,000 full-time employees. Yeah.
Which that's scary.
It is about time. You can't grow an economy with growing government. But
what are the cuts mainly coming from this? Let's say on average, each of these 5,000 employees, let's say they're making, 70,000. That'd probably be on the higher side. There are probably some higher, some are lower. And that's 350 million. So there's still a lot more money that's got to come. Like, where do you know where the cuts are coming from in total?
Yeah, they didn't really detail what it is. And to be honest, would we have no real government right now? And then we just got these fill-ins that we talked about last week who just got put in by Trudeau. But Trudeau's gone. Are they just going to be filling the seat until the election? So who knows?
Hot take. Did you see that one thing? Like they did, the Liberals caucus had a thing. Supposedly it was like a 5-hour meeting. Trudeau was only there for 30 minutes. He left. All the news reporters are trying to get something from him. He said something in French and they translate it and it says, I don't have time for this. I'm the prime minister. I have things to do. And it's just so everyone like he's resigned, but he is still prime minister. We have to remember he is still the prime minister.
Yeah, and actually, even before reporting the pod, I was scrolling on X, and I see that he's still doing interviews on CNN, saying that there is no way in hell that Canada is going to join the U.S. with whole Trump wanting to be on board, and we'll touch on that later. But apparently, even though he's resigning, he's still putting his name out there and just appearing in public. He's not just wanting to ride off in the sunset and just be done with it. Apparently, he still wants to be in the spotlight, apparently. So,
I personally, if I was in that, just think of if you were as an employee, you were managing people. Let's say even if you're imagining 50 people and everyone didn't like you, you would just be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to step out of my own way. I'm going to go somewhere else. Like it's enough people, and it, like I said, I don't want to shit on him too much, but I would be gone. I wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now.
Yeah. So it's essentially like a holding pattern where proroguing government is essentially saving the Liberal Party so that they're not just going to go down in flames, that they can just essentially save face and find another leader in the meantime. But that's what I worry about.
You keep talking about the budget cuts, and then I want to bring something else up about the Parliament now.
Yeah, I mean, like we're poo-pooing on the government. You got to reduce bloat and stuff. But I actually do have a friend that works at CRA. She's on a temporary contract. she did get notice. She was one of the victims of I wouldn't say victims, but affected by this. And yeah, she was notified that her contract wasn't going to get renewed. From a public standpoint, thank you for doing budget cuts, but like I have friends at CRA and they're affected, so it sucks for them on a human level. But unfortunately for the general public, it is necessary.
I have an idea for all these people that are going to be losing their jobs. Depending on what they're done, it's going to be hard potentially find a new job that's in a similar way of what they were doing. Maybe we should set up a program to get some new jobs for people with talking about building houses, efficiently doing developments. Let's take this workforce that's going to be getting taken away and let's actually put it in a direction. Let's use it for something. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah. A lot of times the government changes really are not too much of a forward thinking thing. It was more like a knee jerk reaction of, oh, we're going to address this by doing this. And then there was no thought or consultation in any industry. And anything ends up being a whole lot about nothing just to make it look good, but you're really not going to do anything, right? We talked about the Housing Accelerator Fund, all these loan programs that sound good, but in reality and practice, we're like, this is a bunch of BS. No one's ever going to do this, that kind of stuff.
That's what I mean. Let's start like the talking about different programs. Let's not use the government funds. Let's put that to other stuff. Let's just open up like the first home savings account. Allow people to put the $40,000 into it instantly. Let's not handcuff people to the 8,000. Like people have the money saved. Boom. That doesn't cost, like it doesn't cost anyone. It's just, hey, like people are going to get bigger tax returns.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we could do that would help other people, and it really wouldn't affect the government all that much.
Yeah. We've heard about government just wasting away money on these politicians going on these extravagant vacations and putting it on the government's tab, on the taxpayers tab. In order for the next party to just fix our country, unfortunately, there's going to be some hurt. Major. It's going to hurt. But in order for the good of the country, it'll have to happen. We're not just going to say this, but we'll probably feel it ourselves in our everyday lives too. Argentina's done it, and obviously we're a different country. If a country, like if someone can do it, then it's possible. We just need to, like you said, it's going to hurt. We're going to have to rip off that Band-Aid, but it's better to do it all at once versus a slow like death kind of thing.
It's really funny. We'll talk about home prices a little bit later, but it's just hearing a lot of people are very scared of the conservatives coming in because of home prices. That is, we have people that are screaming, we need to make home prices better. And we have boomers saying that, hell, we want people to be able to afford homes, but they don't want their golden asset going down. That is their golden asset, and they don't want it to be touched. And that's where it's a weird time.
Yeah, we almost have a divergence of the voting public where, let's just say you and I, for instance, like you're separate, like we're not together as a couple, as our example. But let's say you buy your place, I buy a place. We're both home buyers. And of course, as a home buyer, we want prices to come down because we want it to be more affordable. Yes, we buy something. Great. Now we're a homeowner.
Don't want it to come down.
Guess what? We don't want it to come down anymore. Once you become a homeowner, I want my properties to go up because now I'm a homeowner. So it's almost like as soon as you become a homeowner, your position changes. Like now, as we're both homeowners, so we understand. Of course, we want our properties to go up, but at the same time, if the properties go up, our kids are going to have a hard time qualifying, right? Yeah. So it is it's kind of the have and the have-nots, and the damned if you do, damned if you don't thing. So
that's where my take on it. I would be fine, Alex, personally. That I wouldn't be devastated if home prices came down a bit. I don't think they are going to come down. We just keep hitting this floor. But I'd be really happy that if home prices didn't increase for the next little while. I would be personally happy if they just stayed stagnant. And you have to get into investing and actually rebuild a house. You're going to buy an investment and you're going to improve the value of it, not just buy it, hold it for 2 years, and gain 50, 60 to 200,000. Like you actually have to put sweat into it. And that's where I think real estate's going to go back to what it used to be.
Yeah, I would say the last 10, 15 years, home prices have been propped up by just speculation from a lot of money coming from overseas, foreign investment, and just coming in, propping up the markets. And real estate it became like gambling, essentially like people putting money on crypto and knowing that it was going to go up. And I'd love for Canada to be less reliant on just real estate. And because the States, they're so about building businesses and being innovative and be productive like that. Whereas it's in Canada, we're all about real estate and then oil and gas and a few other things. And that's about it.
We were built on businesses before, and the government has just done everything to be like, hey, you shouldn't don't have a business. We're going to tax you more. Like they've just taken all the incentives away. And that's where, I hope to see that more, where we bring that innovation back to Canada.
No, I get it. You had a story before I interrupted you. Do you want to get back to that?
Yeah, that one, what was I going to talk about? So we're talking about how Trudeau, pro-raw government and everything, and what they're trying to do is shuffle the cabinet, get someone else to be prime minister. There was like a really good comparison of pretty much like what happened in the US. Everyone was super upset with Biden. They did not like him, like it was over. And that's why he resigned, and they brought in Kamala, and they hoped that would swing the odds, but it was already so far gone. And that's where it's just interesting. You would think people could see that. Like, how could the Liberals not see, okay, someone else tried this 6 months ago. It didn't work. You know what? We just have to restart. You know what? Let's go back to the drawing board. Sorry to say, most likely the Conservatives come in. Maybe let's do something and better what we want to do and come back in the next 4 years super strong.
Yeah. And even if they come in, great. They come in. The changes they enact, it takes a couple years for things to come to fruition. Initial changes sounds great, whatever they decide. And not like, for you viewers, we're not going to be pro-conservative, but we're just like, we want our country to change for the better, whether it be whoever is in parties. Don't be confused that, hey, we're pro-Polyev or pro-conservative.
I want to be in the middle.
Canada.
Yeah, I want to be in the middle.
We love our country. We see our country going to shit, and we just want it to be better. Yeah, we're just hoping for things to change. Yeah, let's get back to it. So, interesting thing, over the holidays, a BC man, so we're back to the CRA issue, a BC man who flipped 14 properties in a 3-year period from not 3 years ago. Check this out. This is over 10 years ago. 2011 to 2014 has been fined by CRA for more than $2 million for failing to report more than $7.5 million in earnings.
Yep. Took 7 years for them to find out. We've increased how many people have been hired at CRA by like tens of thousands. And it's like, how does something like that get missed? Like how did that go through for so long? And
not 7 years. This is 10 years for CRA to figure out.
Exactly.
My goodness. No wonder why we're so behind in prosecuting criminals and money laundering and all that stuff. And like,
I would say, obviously, I would put money out. This guy probably has money. He probably has a good accountant. He spent the money, and CRA, they'll spend less time on that. They're going to go after someone else that's, hey, you know what? These people, they file their own taxes. They don't know what they're doing. We're just going to audit them. Oh, you know what? Hey, we've made an extra 100K. Do that 20 times. It's easier for them to do that than go after the $2 million, the higher ones, because it takes more time for them. But we gotta slap some wrists here.
Yeah, it's good that they finally caught it, but it took 10 years for that. By then, that person probably could have moved all their money to offshore and whatever, shell companies, and just booked the country. Speaking of which, I've heard a lot on X that how new immigrants have been gaming the system is they take out credit cards, loans, or whatever. They rack up all this debt, no intention of paying it back, and they just leave the country.
And they just take it out as cash then, or just they go spend, live life a little bit, and then leave?
Yeah, and they just leave, and they don't have any plans to come back. As based on our society, we can't chase after them because they're out of the country.
Yeah.
So who foots the bill?
Yeah.
Right. It's consumers at the end of the day, because companies will write it off, and then they'll make it up by jacking up interest rates for everyone else, or fees, or everything like that.
I would think like it's so hard to think. A business should be profitable. Everyone wants to make money, but is there like a limit to profitability? Let's talk about Visa and Amex and stuff. Like their profitability is 50%. That is what their profits are. And is that too much? Are they just like taking from everyone? Hey, you could still be at 20%. And that's where it's hard to know. Do you think there should be a cutoff, Alex, for profitability?
Oh, absolutely. Our business mortgages is so regulated.
Yep.
It's harder to get a mortgage in Canada than to get a car loan, to get a credit card. My goodness, if you go into, just go to any car dealership. As long as you have decent credit, they don't look at, they don't
care your income. You just tell them,
confirm,
hey,
yeah. They don't ask for pay stubs, employment letter, and all that stuff. They don't verify that you can afford it. That's something that you need to figure out yourself. But then all of a sudden you can go to Tesla, you can buy yourself a Model 3 or Model Y, but you're paying $15,000 to $2,000 a month.
Yeah. But, and you make $50. Yeah. And the crazy thing,
you make 50,000 and so there's no way, and then the same thing with credit cards. Like, my goodness, anywhere from 19 to 29%, 30%. We need to have some regulation on the maximum interest companies can charge. Now, this might not be the oligopoly kind of talk, but the same thing. We need some more consumer protection to fight for us.
And that's where we need more schooling. Like, we need people, and that's where it's actually a cool thing, Alex. I might actually go to a high school and talk about mortgages, talk about credit, talk about like that stuff. I'm excited to like actually show people like, this is why you don't use a credit card aggressively. It's great to say, hey, you're going to make a bunch of points, but on average, 95% of people do not pay their credit off. And so if we were educated better, I was lucky enough in school, I learned about that stuff, but 9 times out of 10 people don't even know how interest works. They don't even know how taxes work.
Yeah, we need to have a better education system on financial literacy. Like, I do work with some companies, like financial advisor firms, who their mission is to do financial literacy. That's because our education system is so poor. It's taught, like, our system is in a such that teaches you how to be a good employee. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you don't learn that from going to school. You learn by just doing and just going out there. But yeah, financial literacy is a huge important thing. Like, me growing up, like, I was taught that way. Like, when you're in school, it's all theory. When you're like a 16-year-old kid, you're like, oh yeah, I got money. By the time I got to college or university, I have these like guys selling these credit cards for a free T-shirt. And of course, as a poor student, you're going to take whatever freebie, and then you get
free money.
You get a credit card that's maybe a $2,000 limit. Freaking just racked it up, and because you think at the time you thought it was your money, but oh no, you do have to pay it back. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way. So I'm just telling you my story. I had to get consolidation loans because I'm like, shoot, now I owe $10,000, and how am I going to pay this off? So as a student,
fast because you don't you don't notice it, and that was even before tapping. Like, tapping, I don't even want to know like how like tapping has increased. It's just so easy online. Just click a button, you're good to go. Yeah, like same thing. I never racked up the highest I racked up a card really quick when I was younger was like $1,000, and I was whoa. This happened in 3 days, and I'm like, how did this happen? And after
that's easy. Whoa. Yeah, easy for $1,000 because back then, an all-inclusive week in Mexico, $1,000. Now it's with inflation, it's $2,000 to $3,000. But it's easy, easy. We need to have some more financial literacy education in our schools.
And that's what me and Alex want to do here. And I'll bring to light, like to me, I think like we need some more stuff on the car industry. I have some people that work in the car industry. Hey, I don't want to attack your industry, but the way that cars are financed to me is just disgusting. And you can finance a vehicle, just so people understand, when you buy a house, let's say at the minimum down, the highest you can finance it is 95% loan to value, meaning you have put 5% down. That's the max. When you do a car loan, they can finance it up to 200%. So if you understand that, that means they're financing it over the value that it's worth. And the reason they can do that is because they know that they're going to make money, as every single person is going to keep financing it. You may buy it the first time, Alex. They'll increase it and say, oh yeah, you can finance it higher. People can pull down payment from a new vehicle. You can actually finance it for more than it's worth, but they know they're going to make all the money because the next person that buys it, oh, we're going to finance it. Oh, you're going to get charged 17%, and it just keeps going. It's to me, it's disgusting.
Yeah. And I know there's a period where I was looking at changing cars, and of course, sometimes in situations you owe more on your car loan than the car is worth. Mm-hmm. And then I talked to some contacts at dealerships, and they're like, Oh, that's
we'll
okay.
Just wrap it up. Yeah.
We just roll into the next thing.
Yeah.
What that means is you're going to owe more on that car than that car is worth. So you're just rolling it forward. So if you're getting a $30,000 car, you're essentially, let's say, 10 grand more than the car is worth in my current car. I'm rolling that 10 grand deficit onto the next car. So I'm paying 40,000 on a $30,000 car. So that's not right. I don't think they don't do that in mortgages or real estate. They don't.
100%.
Right?
No, you can't. Hey, that's where it gets scary right now that people have bought in pre-sales. Hey, you bought it for $1 million. Hey, it's only worth $1 million. It's only worth 800 now. You have to tie in equity from somewhere else. They're not just going to say, hey, you know what? We'll increase it for you.
Yeah. As much as our industry is regulated, we want some more, like, as consumers, we're calling for more regulation in the auto industry, as well as consumer credit cards, because that is seriously out of control.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Yeah. Like when I get, especially it's immigrants that get it the worst. Like whenever I get someone that's new to Canada looking at that they have a car loan, it's at 18-20%. And you're like, why is that? Oh, they told me I couldn't get anything else. And I usually help them go somewhere else. They're now down in the 7%. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, we kind of digress, but let's continue on.
Talk about how these people that get these car loans that are getting the Teslas and stuff so that they can drive Uber and DoorDash. Well, the kind of the free reign on like why a lot of people have done it is because you don't have to report the income. And so that's where some people do it as side jobs. CRA is going to force these platforms to now start claiming that income. They're going to have to show it. And that's going to be, honestly, I think it's going to be a massive hit on that business because it will mean less likely people will do it.
Yeah, you're earning income, so you should be paying taxes on it. But I understand how some people are not going to do it now. Or
where I live, it's not even the thing. We're not in a big enough like area for people. Like Uber, I think like works for a little bit. Like if someone picks it up, DoorDash, like it works. But like most of the restaurants, I can't even get it out to where I have. So I've never even used these things other than Uber in the city. But I just we see it in downtown Vancouver. How many people are driving with a Tesla? Uber sticker, DoorDash sticker. Yep.
I've been using Uber quite a bit because our car was in the shop for a little bit, and I was expecting it to be all Teslas because it's Teslas or EV cars because it's worth their while because you're not having to pay for the gas. But there was a few cars, like a few of our drivers had gas vehicles. Like one was a Acura MDX. I'm like, hot dang, that's a V6 and you're paying gas to it. I'm like, if you're paying tax on it, I don't know if this is really that worth it for you. C'est la vie, to each their own, right? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Depends on the area that they're driving. I remember talking to a guy in the US and I can make $400 or $500 a day. And that's a pretty, but it's like 8-10 hours of just straight driving. It's like, it's not an easy hustle, but hey, you are a business owner, but you're going to have to start claiming it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's a few news that came out. We're in January, but news came out in December for November. Now, this isn't shocking news, but Canada's economy, it shrank in November for the first time in 2024. It contracted by 0.1%. The economists are saying we're not in recession, but we all know we are in recession.
That's exactly.
The true indicator should be more of a, I think some analysts call it recession
0.2
per capita. Yeah. Like we've been in a per capita recession for like a year and a half now.
Oh, exactly. That's where it's easy for them to do the numbers. And really in my head, it's really like, what if we just said back in 2023, hey, we're in a recession and just dealt with it then? Is us like trying to make the numbers look better and keep kicking this thing down the road? Is it actually helping anything?
Yeah, it's to put a sports analogy. It's okay when you say that your team is in a rebuild. Just by saying it doesn't make it like less. You're not like trying to hide it. And if you call it something, it's not something. Like if you're honest with yourself, just call it as it is. Right? Exactly.
It's going to be a rough couple of years, but hey, like everyone can make a change. And that's where it's, I just feel like we're just trying to hide from something that is everyone else knows about it. But the government says we got the vibe session.
Yeah, exactly. We try to more of this Trump thing. We have to talk about it because it's been plastered all over X and our socials. So during Christmas, he was just leading into this joke that he was having Canada join the US. But he's really doubling down on this. And he wished Canadians a Merry Christmas on the 25th, and said that we would pay 60% less tax for being the 51st state. I'm like, do you think that's for real? I'm like, I don't know.
It's even what is 2 days ago he's on there and he's using it as a trump card right now, saying, hey, you Canada, you guys have nothing to really help me with. I have everything and I can make you guys like be crushed. And that's where it's, again, to me, it's okay. Let's say, hey, what if we stop giving everything to the US? Well, why don't we start bringing stuff back to Canada? Because like we export our lumber, our oil. It's okay. Hey, you know what? We're not going to export it to you. We're going to deal with it ourselves. But our infrastructure is not ready for it. Like it would take years to even be able to do it. And that's where it gets scary, because he could easily crush a lot of industries, mainly the car industry.
Yeah, and thankfully, like even though Trudeau hasn't said anything, I'm hearing some other premiers saying that the way we're going to fight back on the tariffs would be, we're just going to cut off our energy supply out to the U.S. because I believe we export quite a bit of energy to the States. And I guess we're going to have a tariff war. I've never been around to experience what a tariff war is. Yeah. I've heard about it, but. Yeah, I guess it might be difficult going to the States for traveling if there's tariff wars.
Yeah, that's where it's, obviously all the polls over there, everyone's saying, would you consider it? Should we go in with the US, the no more free healthcare? I feel like in the last 3 years, like I don't fully believe we're in a free healthcare system anymore. I think
nothing's free. We pay it with higher taxes. We do have universal health care, but there is a cost to it. So.
I mean, I paid and I'm like fine with paying it because, hey, we have the money, but I had to get, like my son has taken a inhaler for $150 for one inhaler, lasts for 3 months. It's like that, like other families could not afford that. And that to me is just, and obviously the subsidies come in, which I did see a stat from actually the Fraser Institute, who looks at like taxes and everything. They analyze that, and they say that people that are middle income earners actually pay 70% in a marginal tax bracket. And the reason why they came up with these numbers is when you're at 50,000 and below, you get all the subsidies. You get the higher child benefit tax. You get like the drug subsidy. You get the dentistry, all these different things. When you go above that 50 to 90,000, you lose all that. So you have to pay all this stuff. And so it actually works out to 70% in taxes. And so we're pretty much telling people it'd be better if you stay down below at 50,000 and not try and gain more income.
Wow. It's just, that's another reason to not promote productivity and like wanting to, better yourself and build a business, all that stuff.
It just gets to me of the scary of talking about universal income and stuff. They're pretty much trying to be like, hey, you know what? Why do you need to work? Like work less, and you'll go get to keep that 50,000 that we're going to give you, but you're just going to be like a sheep at a farm.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, continuing on this, we heard that Kevin O'Leary went to Mar-a-Lago. I believe that's in the Caribbean, right? Where the leaders met to discuss with Trump the idea of Canada joining the U.S. I'm like, what power does he have to do that? He's not a politician. He's just he's a business leader. Yeah, he was on Dragon's Den. Now he's in Shark Tank in the States. But like, what gives him the right to do that? Yeah, sure, you can talk to him, but what is that going to do?
It's a weird one. And actually, did you see Trump said the Gulf of Mexico? He's saying that he's going to change that to the Gulf of America, which is like,
oh my goodness. So he's not just focusing on Canada. He's focusing on Mexico. And then he wants to buy Greenland off Denmark too. I'm like,
all
right.
He's coming after everyone.
Our American friends, you voted him in. So is he making America great again? I don't know.
It is. Maybe all those people were going to come to Canada. Maybe we'll become the 51st state, but then we'll just take over the rest of it because everyone will want to come to Canada as the 51st state.
Yeah, and everyone, you know what? As Canadians, we're like, you can have Quebec. Quebec's always wanted to leave us. You can have them. And then some people even saying, oh, we'll give you Alberta. We'll take California, Oregon, and Washington, like trading monopoly cards and stuff. So
exactly.
All right, we digress. A few things here. Like our birth rate has been down for quite a bit, like with high cost of living and stuff like that. And it's not just Canada, but a lot of the G7 nations, just with affordability, I think birth rates are down. They're below like replacement, right? Replacement number is 2 because a parent. Yeah. And
but is it
Hungary,
like so the thing is it like money has to do with it, but it's me and my wife, we were very lucky. We never had any issues with getting pregnant and everything, but we know like lots of other people that it is a very hard thing. And that's where like why is it becoming so hard for people and women to become pregnant as well? It's not like a 1 year thing. It's like 2-3 years. They're having to take the correct hormones, having to maybe go get in vitro, which costs tens of thousands. Every other province, you have to pay for it other than Quebec. You get in vitro for free.
Yeah. I think, too, that's a kind of a symptom of a societal change now where women are choosing to have kids later in life. Whereas before, like physiologically, you're in your prime in your 20s or early 30s. Now, women are choosing to have their careers, starting their careers. And of course, it lumps in with affordability and all that stuff. And by the time they want to have kids in their mid to late 30s, your body is that window is starting to close, which is becoming more difficult. And I know some couples have even been polled. They have choosing not to have kids because of the cost and the lifestyle change it would have. And that's
where I mean, you got Hungary.
They're trying to combat. You can mention it.
Yeah, and that's where a Hungary prime minister says, hey, if you have 4 or more babies, you're not going to pay any income tax for the rest of life. I'm going to tell you, everyone, right now, you cannot pay me enough money. I'm not having more. I love my 2 kids. I'm perfect at that. I'm not having any more. I'd rather pay my taxes.
My son's girlfriend comes from a family. They have 4 girls. They would not be paying any tax. And I love you guys. You know who I'm talking to. I love you guys, but I don't know, man. No income tax. I'm like, unless you really want the 4 kids for other than financial reasons, it should not be a reason to have more kids. Financial.
Oh,
isn't there a stat that how much does it cost to raise a child from birth to 18? Is it like $1 million or something like that?
It's like $1 million. Yeah, it's not. It's a crazy number.
You can't pay me enough.
I have a friend where I'd be like, okay, so it's $4 million to get it for me, but let's say, hey, I've saved, let's say no income tax. Okay, I've saved even on the higher end. Okay, I've saved $100K a year. I ain't making that money up.
Yeah, and it's that money you save in income tax you could pay to have a nanny to look after kids or pay for daycare, all these programs. I'm like, but if you have to pay for a nanny and not be a parent, then why have the kids in the first place? I'm not trying to poo-poo people with large families. You have a heart for kids. That's great. Good on you. And I have a friend who also has 5 kids and the wife homeschools. And I'm like, I give you all the props in the world because I don't have the patience for my kids.
Exactly. That's how I wish I could have more patience. It's one thing I want to work on better for 2025 with my kids, but it's hats off to the people that do, especially like the farmers, like the farming families and everything. That's like that industry. That's where like their lifeblood is their family, making sure people are there to keep working the farms. And we get away from that now.
Yeah, I believe Quebec tried this stunt about 20 years ago, but didn't work. So great on you, Hungary, for trying this. I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah. The funny thing is you're going to get, I'm not going to pick on people, but let's think of even like foster families. There's some amazing foster families out there. Then there's really crappy fosters that do it for the money. And that's where you would get people here doing it for the money and their kids are going to have a horrible life. And so what? They go to the government and say, hey, I had my 4 kids. I did it for you. I'm going to pay my taxes, but I'm not going to take care of my kids anymore.
Yeah. And then then your kids have to go through tons of counseling and trauma and all that. And they're not functioning members of society and such.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, this episode's all digressing into life talk.
Let's get back to the mortgages. And this is like the next year, 2 years, just so people understand, there's 1.88 trillion worth of mortgages coming up for renewal, which it's great. It's, hey, awesome for us to say, hey, we're going to have more business. But we have to remember is a lot of people got these mortgages back in 2020, 2021. where some people are sitting at rates at 1.5%, 2%. They're going to be doubling their interest rate. And hey, doubling your interest rate does not mean doubling your payment. Your payment is not going to double, but your monthly payment is going to go up. 9 times out of 10, when you usually get a mortgage, you pay it down and you would expect your payment to go down. We're in a time where payments are actually going to be going up. And I remember we talked about on another pod, on average, I think it was like $500 or $600, didn't we say, Alex?
Yeah, actually, that's not too bad. I'm not going to give you my numbers, but my payment went up 50%.
But that's because you were, that's because of your amortization and everything.
Yeah,
and that's where,
again, I'm on variable, and it just,
and that's where it's going to be hard. It's great to say, hey, some people, but it's the people that if you have an extended amortization, the bank is going to force you back to the correct your interest rate and your payment. Those people are going to see anywhere from $15 to $2,000 for sure.
Yeah. So like for those people who had variable rates and hit the trigger rate and had the fixed payment variables, when rates spiked up to 6.5% or something like that, our amortizations were like 99 years.
Yep.
Thankfully, 1.75% in prime rate cuts has brought amortizations back down. So I looked at my mortgage statement and looked at amortization. It is now back to the healthy range of under 30 years. I'm like, sweet Jesus,
that's a good feeling, man. That's a good feeling to see that you're actually. That's where I'm still getting people that we're helping getting prepared for these reasons, and I'm sitting with a lot of people that got 60, 70-year amortizations on these things, and really we're talking about, does it make sense to sell? Does it make sense to what are we gonna do? And it's, in this case, it's more of a cash flow is what we're trying to manage for people, and I wish I could just say, hey, everyone, you're back to a 2% rate, but that's not the world we're in. It never was going to stay like that. You should have obviously looked at that. Anytime I've ever gotten a mortgage, I've always pretended it's actually going to go higher. I've never said in my head, hey, my rate's going to go down. That's usually what happens, but it's definitely not happening right now.
Yeah. Fortunately enough, like we talked about last week with the rates, we are expecting rates to come down a little bit more, not as fast as it came down last year. So we're expecting maybe around another 1% in prime rate cuts this year. When it comes to fixed, I'm less certain, maybe another 0.5%, like we talked about last week. So the majority of the renewals are coming up later this year, early next year. Renewing at 6% was like crazy, but it's going to come back to the higher 3s, 4s range. So that renewal cliff won't be as bad as initially thought. So it is going to be higher, but you've had a lot of notice now for those of you who had those mortgages. Hopefully that landing can be softened by that time.
And now the other thing is like talking about people that also dealt with a couple people this last week that bought in 2022. Higher prices. They're now looking at selling. They're in negative equity. They don't even realize that. And so for people to understand this, let's say, hey, you bought at 800,000 in 2022. You got a mortgage. Let's say if you put the minimum down, your mortgage is at 775, and now you want to sell it. These people have to sell their place for 700,000. For them to be able to sell it, they would owe the bank money.
So in that situation, they probably had to sell, right? Was it like a separation, or what was that circumstance?
No, they thought that they had more money in it. And so it was a realtor reached out to me and said, hey, can you help these people? I can see that they bought at the peak of the market, and we knew right away. And when I sat with them, they're like, oh, they didn't even understand what was going on. There's people that bought and put more money down that I've helped before that, hey, you've lost some of your profits, but these people, they can't sell. Unless you said if something's going wrong, they're going to owe the bank money.
So I guess they're not going to sell anymore. They're just going to hang on.
And then just exactly. Yeah.
They're just When they were selling, were they wanting to sell for a lifestyle change, or they just wanted to bank the profits that they thought they made?
No, they wanted to upgrade to a bigger house. They were in a townhouse and they thought that they could move to a house.
Unfortunately, that's not going to happen for a while. Yeah. We're going to have to
and that's where their incomes for a while. Their incomes allowed it, they have great incomes, but they don't have a down payment and they can't come up with 75,000 to give back to the bank.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting times. Listen, our pod has gone way over time. We have so much more. Yeah. We're probably going to have to cover that next time. So
exactly.
I'm going to have to put a wrap on this one. Folks, again, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate your support. If you like us, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and do share it with a friend as well. So we want to grow our following so that we can provide value for all the Canadians. So on behalf of Alex... Yes.
I'll just say this. Send us notes, Alex, as well. If there's stuff you want to see, we've had a couple of people reach out, especially we haven't got our mailbag. Our questions are piling up. We will get back to it, but please keep sending those notes and everything, stuff that people want to hear about, they want to know. Like, that's what Alex and I are here for.
Absolutely. If you want us to talk about it, message us, email us, and then we can talk about it on the pod. So on behalf of Alex Shanks, I'm Alex Pang. Thanks for tuning in to the Canadian Mortgage Show. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you later. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, make sure to follow us. Please give us a 5-star rating. You can even send us an email because we want to know what you guys want to hear about. That's what we're here for. Reach out anytime.